Now we're getting to the good stuff. The next thing that I do not do in my homeschool that almost every other homeschooler out there actually does. It's easy to get overwhelmed and feel less than when we scroll through social media and see all of these things that we're not doing in our homeschool. So I think it can be helpful to see that there are a lot of things that other homeschoolers don't do as well. We certainly cannot be perfect at everything or fit every single thing in. It's literally just not possible to do that. Today, I'm going to be sharing 5 things that you might expect homeschoolers to always be doing that we actually don't do at all in our homeschool. I'm not doing this video to say that any of these things are bad or wrong in any way whatsoever, but rather to share that there are so many different ways to homeschool, and there is value and beauty in finding the things that work best for your family and not just conform to this kind of imaginary pie in the sky idea of what a homeschool should look and function like. You don't have to do things the way that everybody else does them. It is important to find those things that work best for your family and stick with that no matter what anybody else says. Because at the end of the day, it is about what works best for your kids and for you as their homeschool parent. So with that out of the way, let's jump into the first thing that we don't do in our homeschool that might be surprising. The first thing that we don't do is follow a traditional school schedule. If you've been following my channel at all, you know that this is actually not surprising to you, but if you're new here, it might be something that sounds a little bit crazy if you come from that traditional school mindset. So rather than following a strict school schedule where we might have each hour laid out day by day, where we do science every single day at 10 o'clock and we do math at 10:45 and then we take a break at 11:15 or whatever, we do not do that at all. We have a very loose and relaxed flow to our homeschool day. I have assignments that our kids are required to do for the week, and then they get to choose when they want to do them within their homeschool day. And for my younger kids, because they're not quite as independent as my oldest, who's in 8th grade, they require a little bit more structure. So I do have laid out for them their daily assignments, but we do not follow that strict schedule where we have certain times where we do certain subjects, and we don't do every subject every day, which is another thing that might sound a little bit strange to someone who's coming from a more traditional school mindset. We like to have our days all be just a little bit different as far as what we're studying, because then it kind of keeps things loose and free a little bit. We allow some more time for some individual-led learning, some things that they're interested in, so that they can spend time diving into the things that they are excited about and growing and developing their skills in those areas. If you're curious at all about how that works, make sure you check out last week's video. I will link it in the description below, where it kind of walks you through how I homeschool our 4 kids and what a normal school day looks like. The second thing that we do not do in our homeschool is have a traditional homeschool room or space. We do not have a classroom set up. I do not have desks that my kids sit at. If you look around this room, this is what we call our school room, but it's really just our school supply room. I have a craft closet where we keep all of our arts and crafts kind of supplies. We have our library shelves where we have all of our school type of books on them. And then this shelf on the back wall has our printer and printer paper and just various other supplies that we may need for our homeschool. We also have our piano in here where our kids do their music lessons. But other than that, this room is not used actually for school. The vast majority of our schoolwork is either done at the dining table or on the couches in the living room. I do also have a school cart that we keep in our dining room right next to our dining table, where we have all of the resources that they use on a normal daily basis. So it's easy and accessible to get to quickly when they need to get started on their schoolwork. I know a lot of people really do like to have that more structured space, and that is fantastic if that works well for you and your family. For us, we really prefer to be a little bit more comfortable and relaxed and enjoy our time sitting on the couch because we are homeschooling. To us, that means we get to enjoy life in our home. We get to learn about things as part of our natural flow to the day. The third thing that we do not do in our homeschool that most other homeschoolers do is science experiments. Shocker. Does that mean we don't do science? No, we certainly do science, but the vast majority of our science is coming through reading or watching interesting science TV shows or nature documentaries where we are forming a different, broader, wider view of science rather than just doing science experiments. Does that mean my kids do not ever do science experiments? Again, no. Science experiments are just one of those things that I personally do not enjoy doing. And so it's one of those things that gets shoved to the side because I just am not excited about getting all of the materials out and taking all of the time to do it with them and then having to clean all of the things up and all of that stuff. Just not my idea of a fun homeschool day. As much as our kids often love to do them, they are normally then initiated by them. They're not something that I put forth in front of them in most cases. So if that's something that you don't like doing either, don't put that pressure on yourself. It is okay to do them sparingly or randomly throughout the year and not having to do that every single week. Now we're getting to the good stuff. The next thing that I do not do in my homeschool that almost every other homeschooler out there actually does, I do not use a planner. I said it, yep. I don't use a planner anymore. I have purchased a planner every single year of our 9 years of homeschooling, and I have never once completed the entire year using my planner. It's just not my strong suit. As much as I wish it was. I love the idea of having these beautiful planners with everything perfectly laid out and color-coded and fancy and feeling like I have it together, but I just don't. It just doesn't work for me. It ends up making me feel more frustrated and more like a failure because I end up falling short of my ideal scenario of how I should be using that planner. For the last several years, I did use a planner in the sense of doing reverse planning or record keeping as opposed to planning things out ahead of time. I would write down at the end of the day the things that we did for that day. It just started feeling like a lot of extra work, and then I would forget to do it, and then I'd have to figure out what did we do last week on Tuesday because I didn't fill it in that day or whatever, and it just was stressing me out so much that I just decided, you know what, I'm just not gonna do a planner anymore. This year, however, for us, I am using a Gentle Feast, which pretty much has everything planned out already for me. So while I'm not physically using a planner myself, our lessons are pretty much already planned out. I am just kind of copying those things from the spreadsheets that Julie Ross has created and pasting them into my binders that I create for our kids that kind of serve as a planner, as opposed to having their plans laid out in a planner system all in one place. I have created this binder system for my kids where they each have their own binder that has their individual lesson plans for the week in there. They use that to figure out what it is that they need to do each day. And that, in my mind, is kind of serving as my planner. So rather than me having a full planner that I'm writing all of these things out in for myself, that literally no one ever sees, I am using this binder system for my kids, and then I'm going to save each of those pages, and then that will get tucked away in their files at the end of the year. So in my mind, this is kind of actually working a little bit better than using a planner itself, because each kid will have their own individual lesson plans tucked away for what they did for this school year, as opposed to it being in one place all together that just got kind of messy. I feel like this has been a much better fit for me. It has taken more pressure off of my shoulders to not have to be writing down every single thing in a big lesson planner. Fortunately for us, we live in a state that we are not required to submit any kind of lesson plans or records or anything to our state. So everything that we do is really just for our own personal record keeping. And so to me, it seemed like a no-brainer to take that pressure and that stress off of myself and try to incorporate things in a different way within our homeschool. And so far this year, it has worked amazingly. I am so happy with this change. The fifth thing that we do not do in our homeschool is that I do not teach. One of the things that has taken a lot of pressure off of my shoulders over the years is to come to the realization that as the mom, the homeschool mom, I am not my kids' teacher. I am a facilitator of their education. And so I am not standing up in front of my kids teaching lessons about every subject every day. That's just never been my thing. It doesn't work for us. I don't enjoy it. My kids would get bored with that kind of homeschooling for them. Rather, in our homeschool, most of the things that our kids are learning about, they are learning from reading books themselves or us reading and learning together. So rather than me teaching things to them and me telling them what they need to know, they are learning actively from the books they're reading, and then they're telling me back the things that they learned, the things that lit up interest in their minds while they were reading, the things that they hadn't heard about before that engaged their curiosity. Those are the kind of things that I feel like that is more where true learning happens, not from me telling them what they need to know, but for them making connections themselves. One of our goals as home educators should be to teach our kids how to learn, not necessarily what to learn. And so by providing them good resources and books and curriculum, if that is something that you want to use, it allows them the opportunity to make connections themselves and learn about things on their own, ask questions and become engaged and have conversation and discussions about the things that they're learning. It is a much more natural approach to learning. When you think about how we actually learn best, once we leave this like traditional school mode, right? We become adults, we move on. The way in which we learn new things is by pursuing the things that we're interested in and figuring out what works best for us and how to learn those things. If it's through watching videos or reading books or watching tutorials on YouTube or whatever it may be, that is a more natural way to learning. And so by incorporating some of that in our kids' education now, where they're at home with us, they are able to learn, how people naturally learn, so that then when they grow up and they move out of their house, they have that skill set to be able to learn whatever it is that they're going to need to know within their chosen career or profession, or even just for fun, because we want to create these lifelong learners, right? We want them to be moving forward and learning and growing and always progressing and becoming the best them that they can be. This even goes for math. We use teaching textbooks where someone else is doing the teaching for them. They listen to a lecture on the iPad and then they do their math problems right there on the iPad. I really just have to be there to answer questions or to help them out if they get stuck on a process or something like that. So I am not actively having to teach any of the lessons in our homeschool. This has been one of the things that has made a huge difference within our homeschool as far as me having less pressure and stress on my shoulders as the homeschool parent, because I have 4 kids and trying to teach all of them on their own individual levels is just, I can't even imagine how difficult that would be. And this way of learning and educating our kids has been so freeing to get into this mindset and this mode of learning. It has been a weight off my shoulders and so amazing. What do you think? I'm curious if any of these ideas shocked you or surprised you just a little bit, or if there's any of these things that you're like, yeah, I don't do that either. I would love to hear from you. Will you please drop a comment below? Again, if you wanted to check out what a normal homeschool day is like here in our home, make sure you check out this video here. Thanks so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that thumbs up button below, and I will see you next time.